welcome to Cleaning Up History, where my goal is preservation of headstones and cemeteries and telling forgotten stories of the past. Warning, this video may contain adult content, violence, as well as racial terminology and some old newspaper articles, so viewer discretion is advised. Today, on this really pretty nice spring day, I am sitting here in the Morley section of U.S. Highway 25W, which used to be known as the Dixie Highway. And I want to talk a little bit about some history on this portion of the highway. Now, I've previously did a video of me just driving through during the fall, showing some of the pretty fall colors. And I drive this road quite frequently, so I often think as I'm driving through here, about what it used to look like and how hard it was to construct this road and so forth. And I've discovered something quite shocking to me. Some of you guys may already be aware of this, but I was not. And the more I dig, the more I learned about this portion of the highway. I'm going to show you the highway and a little spring that's behind me right now. But this portion of the Dixie Highway in Campbell County was actually built by 19 mules, 200 prisoners, and it was engineered by a man by the name of Trowbridge, whose grave is in the forgotten portion of Delap Cemetery in Wafallet, which looks to have been vandalized recently. But that's who built this, and I'll go into more explanation. So I have to start off with the Civil War and the end of Civil War and the 13th Amendment. I don't know if you guys have paid attention. I'll put a picture of it up here. I don't know if you guys have paid attention to the wording in the 13th Amendment. It states neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as punishment for a crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, except for as punishment for a crime. That's the wording of the 13th Amendment. So, sorry, I had to check my audio. After the Civil War, in our area, and specifically in Anderson County, there was a lot of what was called convict leasing. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the Cold Creek War. There is a lot of available information about the Cold Creek War. If you guys are interested in learning more about that, you can just look it up. But basically, it was a lot cheaper for mining companies and railroad companies to rent convicts from the state than it was to pay laborers. So that's what caused the War of Coal Creek. They brought in all these inmates to the coal mines, and all of the free people who were working in the coal mines no longer had employment. So it created a big war. And this was in 1892. So by around 1896, the state of Tennessee built Brushy Mountain Penitentiary. I'm sure you guys have heard of Brushy Mountain. I'm not sure if you're aware, but Brushy Mountain was actually a state-owned coal mine. And so to bring revenue into the state of Tennessee, they would take all these people convicted of crimes, throw them in this prison, which was built by the prisoners. It was a wood would build in originally, and would make them work in the mines. And convict leasing was definitely a thing with Brushy Mountain, and a lot of the outlook of people, slavery versus convict leasing. In slavery, you would purchase these people, so you would make sure as to not push them too hard or kill them, because it was an investment. If you killed them, you lost your money. Whereas in convict leasing, if you leased a prisoner and they died, they would just send you another one. So this was happening in our area, and then after the Coal Creek War, they decided to stop leasing them to mines, and they made their own mine. But in the 1900s, there was still some forms of convict leasing, but it was more of a government type of thing. So when they were building the Dixie Highway, there is a area in Campbell County that's called the Narrows, which was just impossible to build this road through. So Campbell County officials decided that they would work with Brushy Mountain State Prison or State Penitentiary, whatever you want to call it, and they would get some inmates here to work on this rough part of the Dixie Highway. And they did. They had a prison camp in Morley, and they also had a camp in Highcliff. Now, I can't find any sort of written histories about any of this taking place. The only way I found this information is through many newspaper articles. And while I'm talking, I'll put up slides of these articles so you can see them. But basically, where I'm sitting at here, from Morley up through Highcliff, this part of the highway was built by slaves, or not slaves, but convicts from Brushy Mountain Prison. And so the names of many of these men will never be dug up, more than likely. But Mr. Trowbridge, he was the engineer. He was from Jacksboro. I know from instances, like prison escapes and such, I know the names of a few of the prisoners or convicts that were here. There was a Mr. Ogle who was, I think his charge was larceny. He was white, and he was from Sevierville. And he had already escaped from Brushy Mountain Prison once, but for some reason they decided to use him in this convict camp in Morley, and he escaped from there as well. I'm not sure if they ever found him once he escaped from Morley. They found him when he escaped from Brushy and brought him back to Brushy, and then they brought him to the Morley Camp, and he escaped from there as well. And there was also a convict by the name of Alex Higgs. He was from Washington County, and he was white. I say this because I'm talking about the races, but I'll get more into detail on that in a minute. But Alex Higgs was a white man, along with a black man by the name of Walter Morgan, who tried to escape from the Morley prison camp. And Mr. Morgan was recaptured, but Alex Higgs was shot and killed. It makes me wonder where the burial place of some of these people who died are. Probably in this vicinity. Unmarked graves somewhere. We come across a lot of unmarked graves in Campbell County, and it could possibly go back to things like this. So this prison camp was in 1915, 1916. It was in 1916. And the one in Morley, it was built out of oak. It was a large building in the shape of a T. It was large enough to house around 200 inmates, or 150, 200 inmates. And it was in the shape of a T. One of the wings of the T was the sleeping quarters for the white prisoners. The other wing of the T was the eating area for the prisoners. And the long part of the T was the sleeping quarters for the black convicts. And then on up at Highcliff, their camp was a little different. It was a honor camp. And they decided to take these mostly black convicts and title them as trustees. And the trustees were trusted at this camp, which was actually like a large revival tent. And there wasn't any barbed wire, and there were only like 3 guards there, one of them being an overnight guard. So they weren't as confined as the ones in Morley. There were escapes there, and when they caught convicts that escaped from the trustees camp, they would put them in the Morley camp, which was more confined. It was surrounded by mesh wire with barbed wire on top. The whole building had wire around it. It had armed guards at all times. It was more of a maximum security camp, whereas the one at Highcliff was not maximum security. There were many escapes. There were many deaths at these camps. If you read the articles that were written, obviously by politicians, it talks about how good the prisoners were treated, and that at no time none of the animals or prisoners were allowed to be mistreated. And it may have been the case, but for any matter, I don't want to get into politics or anything like that on this channel. I just want to focus on history here. But yeah, this is a portion of the highway that was built by inmates. And I'm not sure if I was the only one that was oblivious to this. But from April 1st to, I think it was September of 1916, these prisoners were here in Morley. And at one point, Morley was actually referred to as Convict City because there were so many convicts working here. And a lot of them did get, they got their sentences, cut down. They got paroled early for all the hard work that they done. And they did a lot of work, a lot of hard labor, and got a lot of things done. They actually got it done in half the time it was expected that they could get these things done. They were working so hard. Some of them did enjoy being here in these mountains. There was some letters written by prisoners to the paper talking about how they were allowed to go fishing in Clear Fork after they got done with their work, and their drinking water was from the springs. In the area, there are a lot of springs coming up on 25. I'm sure you guys are aware, at least if you've drove through and drove under the Dripping Rock, you're aware there's a lot of springs in the area. But from the Civil War up into this was going on in 1916, like 107 years ago. We had convict camps, and like I said, they were often called trustee camps, or things like that. The warden of Brushy Mountain was here quite frequently during all this construction. His name was Nixon, and I can go on and on about the history of convict leasing and the people who implemented convict leasing and all that, but I really wanted to just focus on this particular area because I want to do local history. Sometimes history in other areas, cause and effect, create the history that happened here. But I'm just going to stop this for a second, and I'm going to get out and show you the little spring that's back here behind me and this little section of Dixie Highway. There's Clear Fork. At one point, one of these articles that I was reading about this area and the building of this highway, it actually did refer to this section as one of the most scenic and beautiful places in the United States. And it is a beautiful place. It's rugged, it's rough. It still is. The people that live in these mountains are still rough. But that's just a little history on the Dixie Highway in Campbell County, Tennessee. So, as always, if you like the content of my channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below. And if you hit the little bell button, you'll be notified anytime I upload any new videos. And I'm just going to put up a lot of newspaper articles about various things that happened during this construction. I feel like I'm missing something. I did want to mention that a lot of the convicts, their charges were things like larceny and vagrancy. Vagrancy was basically if you got stopped on the street and couldn't prove right then and there that you were employed, you were arrested, and at that point you were a convict, and you were sent into this system of working in coal mines and the Brushy Mountain coal mines. Man, that in itself, I mean, do some research into the cemetery at Brushy Mountain Prison and all the collapses at the mines at Brushy Mountain, and then when you go through newspaper articles, you'll get, how much revenue these convicts are making the state. And I do have one on this particular part of the highway, is how much money the county saved by using the convict labor versus hiring contractors to do this labor. Okay, I'm going to stop rambling. This video is long enough, but again, don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.